Have you ever felt invisible in a relationship, like a supporting actor in someone else's story? Have you ever wondered why your efforts to seek respect, attention, or even love seem to fall on deaf ears? Perhaps you've asked yourself, am I not enough? This feeling, one of deep rejection and frustration, can leave you questioning your worth, trapped in a cycle of trying harder to please someone who simply refuses to see you. But what if the answer isn't to fight harder for their attention? What if the most powerful, most liberating act you could take was to stop, to let your silence do the talking? Imagine for a moment what would happen if you walked away, not with bitterness or spite, but with calm detachment and quiet dignity. How would they react? More importantly, how would you feel? This is the essence of Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches us to focus on what we can control and release the need to influence the uncontrollable. In this video, we will explore 9 transformative steps to reclaim your power by choosing to ignore those who do not value you. Each step builds upon the last, leading to a profound sense of freedom and self-respect. And the most compelling part, the ultimate reward lies in the final step, reclaiming your life and thriving on your terms. So let's begin this journey. Stick with me as we deep into the philosophy, the practical actions, and the wisdom that will change how you approach toxic relationships forever. Step 1. Recognize your worth. How often have you let someone else define your value? Maybe it's a partner who dismisses your feelings, or a friend who only comes around when they need something. You find yourself shrinking, bending, molding into whatever shape you believe will please them. But Stoicism asks us a crucial question. Why do you give away your power to define yourself? Recognizing your worth is the cornerstone of ignoring those who treat you poorly. It's not about proving anything to them, it's about knowing deep within that your value is not up for debate. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is in your power to withdraw yourself whenever you desire. Perfect tranquility within consists in the good ordering of the mind." Let's take the story of Sarah, for example. She was in a relationship that started as a dream but turned into a nightmare. Her partner, Max, became cold, manipulative, and emotionally abusive. Despite her best efforts to win back his affection, nothing she did was ever good enough. Does that sound familiar? Many of us, like Sarah, fall into the trap of thinking that if we just try harder, the other person will see our value. But here's the truth. Your worth is not determined by someone else's ability to recognize it. Sarah's breakthrough came when she stopped seeking Max's validation. She realized that no amount of effort on her part could change someone unwilling to see her value. This clarity was her first step toward freedom. Ask yourself, why am I so willing to sacrifice my peace for someone who won't acknowledge my worth? The answer often lies in our fear of being alone, our fear of being unloved. But Stoicism teaches us that we are never truly alone as long as we have ourselves. When you recognize your worth, you begin to detach from the need for external validation. This isn't about arrogance or self-delusion, it's about respect for the unique individual you are. So how can you start recognizing your worth today? Begin by identifying the ways in which you've been undervaluing yourself. Reflect on the moments when you bent over backward to accommodate someone else at the expense of your own well-being. Write these down and ask yourself, would I tolerate this behavior from someone I love and respect deeply? When you recognize your worth, something magical happens. You stop chasing people who do not appreciate you. Instead, you start focusing on yourself, your growth, your peace, your happiness. You understand, as Sarah did, that the problem was never your lack of value, but their inability to see it. Recognizing your worth sets the foundation for all the steps that follow. It gives you the strength to set boundaries, to eliminate contact, and ultimately to reclaim your life. In the next step, we'll explore how creating boundaries is not just a defensive act, but a declaration of self-respect. Let's move forward and discover the power of defining what you will and will not accept in your life. Step 2. Set boundaries. Once you've recognized your worth, the next crucial step is to set boundaries. Think about this for a moment. What are you allowing into your life that diminishes your peace? Have you ever found yourself saying yes to things you didn't want to do, just to keep the peace or avoid conflict? If so, let me ask you, at what cost? Boundaries are not about controlling others, they're about protecting yourself. They are the invisible lines that define what is acceptable and what isn't. When you set boundaries, you're sending a clear message to the world. I respect myself and I expect others to respect me too. Let's return to Sarah's story. After realizing her worth, Sarah understood that Max's behavior would never change unless she changed what she tolerated. She stopped engaging with his criticisms and manipulations. Instead of pleading with him to be kinder or more attentive, she drew a firm line. As she made it clear that his actions had consequences, not through arguments or ultimatums, but through her behavior. But let's be honest, setting boundaries is easier said than done. It can feel terrifying, especially when dealing with someone who is used to crossing them. You might fear their reaction or worry about losing the relationship altogether. Here's where Stoicism offers invaluable guidance. No person has the power to harm you if you do not allow it, Epictetus reminds us. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're being selfish or unkind. It means you're prioritizing your mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. Sarah, for example, decided that she would no longer tolerate Max's late-night disappearances or verbal attacks. Instead of engaging in endless arguments, she stopped responding altogether. Every time Max tried to test her boundaries, she reinforced them by refusing to participate in the drama. Ask yourself, what am I allowing in my life that goes against my values or my peace of mind? Identifying these areas is the first step in creating boundaries. Write them down, and then decide how you'll respond the next time someone tries to push those limits. Will you calmly state your boundaries and walk away if they're not respected? Will you stop engaging with behavior that drains you? Here's the truth. People who respect you will honor your boundaries. Those who don't will reveal their true colors. In Sarah's case, Max didn't respect her boundaries, but that only confirmed what she already knew. His treatment of her was never about love. It was about control. And by refusing to let him cross those lines, Sarah took back her power. Boundaries are not just about saying no to others, they're about saying yes to yourself. They create a safe space for you to heal and grow. And here's something magical. The more you enforce your boundaries, the more confident and empowered you become. You realize that you don't need to bend to someone else's will to be valued. You are enough as you are. If this idea resonates with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your own experiences with setting boundaries in the comments below. Did it feel liberating? Scary? Both? Let's create a space where we can learn from each other's journeys. And if you're finding value in this conversation, don't forget to like this video. It's a small action that supports content like this and helps us reach more people on their journey to self-empowerment. Now that we've established the importance of boundaries, let's move on to the next essential step. Focusing on self-care. Because once you've drawn your boundaries, you need to nurture the person they're protecting you. Stay with me as we dive into how self-care can transform your journey to peace and empowerment. Step 3. Focus on self-care. Once you've set boundaries, the next step is to focus on self-care. Think of it this way. Boundaries create the space you need to protect your peace, and self-care is how you fill that space with healing. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you truly prioritized yourself, your physical health, your mental well-being, your passions? Too often, when caught in a toxic relationship, we neglect ourselves. Our energy is poured into fixing the other person or salvaging the relationship, leaving little room for self-care. Sarah's story reflects this all too well. For years, she had sacrificed her happiness, health, and interests to meet Max's unreasonable demands. She had stopped painting, a passion that once brought her peace, because Max didn't see its value. As she had neglected her physical well-being and even her mental health, all in an effort to hold the relationship together. But when Sarah finally set her boundaries, she realized something profound. She now had the time and energy to focus on herself. She no longer had to carry the emotional weight of trying to please someone who refused to be pleased. Instead, she could channel that energy inward towards self-care. Self-care starts with the basics. Sarah began prioritizing her physical health, especially during her pregnancy. She focused on eating well, staying hydrated, and resting as much as her body needed. These small, simple actions reminded her that she was worth taking care of. And as her physical health improved, so did her emotional resilience. But self-care isn't just about the body, it's also about the mind. Sarah started practicing mindfulness, spending quiet moments each day to reflect on her thoughts and emotions. At first it was difficult. Her mind often wandered back to the pain Max had caused. But with time she learned to observe those thoughts without judgment, letting them pass like clouds in the sky. So practice helped her detach from the emotional turmoil of the past and focus on the present moment. Another crucial aspect of self-care is reconnecting with the things that bring you joy. For Sarah, this meant picking up her paintbrush again. Painting allowed her to express herself in ways she hadn't in years. It was more than a hobby, it was a way of reclaiming her identity, a reminder that she was more than what Max had reduced her to. Self-care also involves surrounding yourself with positivity. Sarah began reaching out to friends and family who uplifted her, people who reminded her of her strength and worth. She realized that the love and support she had been seeking from Max were already present in her relationships with others, and most importantly, within herself. So what does self-care look like for you? Is it as simple as taking a walk in nature or spending time journaling your thoughts? Is it about revisiting a forgotten passion, something that lights you up from the inside? Or perhaps it's about giving yourself permission to rest, to say no, to put your needs first for a change. When you focus on self-care, you're not just healing the wounds of the past, you're also building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. You're sending a powerful message to yourself and the world. I matter. My peace matters. My happiness matters. As Sarah poured more energy into her self-care, she noticed a profound shift within herself, which she no longer felt defined by Max's actions or words. She was rediscovering who she was outside of the relationship, someone vibrant, creative, and strong. And with each act of self-care, she took another step toward reclaiming her life. The journey of self-care is deeply personal, but it's also transformative. As you nurture yourself, you'll find that you're not only healing, but also thriving. And this transformation leads naturally to the next step, eliminating contact with those who disrupt your peace. Let's explore how cutting ties can solidify your journey towards self-respect and freedom. Step 4. Eliminate contact. As you progress through the journey of ignoring those who disrespect or harm you, the next critical step is to eliminate contact. This is often the most difficult part of the process because it requires finality, a decisive break from the person who has been a source of emotional turmoil. But let me ask you this: how can you truly heal if the source of your pain remains within reach? Eliminating contact is not about revenge or punishment, it's about self-preservation. Imagine trying to recover from a wound while constantly reopening it. Each interaction with a toxic individual, whether through messages, calls, or even social media, risks dragging you back into the emotional chaos you're working so hard to leave behind. For Sarah, this realization was the turning point in her journey. After Sarah set boundaries and focused on self-care, she noticed that Max continued to push against those boundaries. He would send manipulative messages, sometimes apologetic, sometimes cruel, in an attempt to regain control. At first, Sarah was tempted to respond, to explain her feelings, to defend her decisions. But she realized that every reply, no matter how well-intentioned, was an invitation for more manipulation. And so she made the hardest but most empowering decision. She cut all ties. She blocked Max's number, unfollowed him on social media, and refused to engage with any indirect attempts to contact her. It wasn't an act of hostility, it was an act of self-respect. Why is eliminating contact so powerful? Because it creates space to heal, to grow, and to rediscover yourself without the constant reminder of what once was. It's a clean break from the cycle of conflict, guilt, and manipulation. And in that space, clarity begins to emerge. But cutting contact is not without its challenges. You might feel guilt, as Sarah did. You might question whether you're being too harsh or fear how the other person will react. However, it's important to remember, you are not responsible for their emotions, only your own. As Epictetus reminds us in Stoicism, we cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Eliminating contact isn't just about physical distance, it's about emotional detachment. For Sarah, this meant resisting the urge to check Max's social media or ask mutual friends about his life. She understood that even the smallest connection could reopen old wounds and jeopardize her progress. And instead, she redirected her focus to the present, her health, her unborn child, and the future she was building for herself. It's natural to feel moments of weakness or nostalgia, especially if the relationship was a significant part of your life. In those moments, remind yourself of why you chose to eliminate contact in the first place. Reflect on the times you felt drained, diminished, or disrespected. Ask yourself, am I willing to go back to that? Eliminating contact is also an act of kindness, to yourself and even to the other person. By stepping away, you're acknowledging that the relationship is no longer serving either of you. You're allowing both parties the opportunity to grow independently, free from the patterns that caused harm. Sarah's decision to cut ties with Max wasn't easy, but it was transformative. Without his constant presence, she found herself feeling lighter, freer. Her days were no longer filled with anxiety about his actions or words. She could focus fully on herself and the life she wanted to create. The silence, once daunting, became a source of peace. When you eliminate contact, you're not running away, you're stepping toward freedom. It's an act of courage, a declaration that you value your peace more than the illusion of reconciliation. And as you move forward, you'll find that this distance lays the foundation for surrounding yourself with support, a crucial step we'll explore next. Let's continue this journey of transformation together. Step 5. Surround yourself with support. After you've eliminated contact with the person who has caused you harm, the next essential step is to surround yourself with support. Healing is not a solitary journey. It's one that thrives in the presence of people who genuinely care about you. Let me ask you, who in your life makes you feel seen, valued, and supported? These are the people you need by your side now. Toxic relationships often leave us feeling isolated, as if no one else could possibly understand our pain. This isolation can keep us trapped, replaying old patterns and doubts. But here's the truth. There are people in your life, friends, family, mentors, who want to uplift you, who want to remind you of your strength, and who want to see you thrive. For Sarah, surrounding herself with support was a game changer. After cutting ties with Max, she reached out to people she had drifted away from during the relationship. Her closest friends welcomed her back with open arms, offering the encouragement she desperately needed. Her family, who had watched her struggle in silence, reminded her of her worth and gave her a safe space to heal. Support comes in many forms. It could be a shoulder to cry on, someone to share a laugh with, or simply a person who listens without judgment. Sometimes support is professional, a counselor or therapist who can help you untangle the emotional knots left behind by the toxic relationship. Sarah found immense relief in speaking with a therapist who helped her process her feelings and rebuild her confidence. Ask yourself, who can I turn to for support? If you're unsure, look for those who have consistently shown kindness and care in your life. They don't have to understand every detail of your experience. They just need to be there for you. Building a support system doesn't just provide comfort, it also reinforces the steps you've already taken. Your friends and loved ones can help you maintain the boundaries you've set, remind you why you eliminated contact, and encourage your journey toward self-care and growth. They become a mirror, reflecting back the strength and resilience you might not yet see in yourself. But what if your circle feels small or even non-existent? This is where seeking new connections becomes vital. Joining a support group, either online or in person, can introduce you to others who have walked a similar path. Sharing your experiences with people who understand can be incredibly validating. It reminds you that you're not alone and that healing is possible. Surrounding yourself with support also means distancing yourself from negativity. Not everyone will understand your decision to cut ties or focus on your well-being, and that's okay. As Epictetus reminds us in Stoicism, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Choose to react by protecting your peace and leaning into relationships that nurture your growth. Sarah found that with her support system in place, she felt stronger and more capable than ever before. So when moments of doubt or sadness crept in, her friends reminded her of how far she had come. They celebrated her victories, no matter how small, and gave her the courage to keep moving forward. So who in your life can you lean on? Take a moment to think about it, and let us know in the comments below. Sharing your thoughts can inspire others who might be feeling alone. And if this message resonates with you, consider liking this video. It's a way of showing that you value conversations about growth and healing. Now that you've surrounded yourself with support, you're ready to take the next step. Focusing on personal growth. Because with the right people by your side, the possibilities for your future are endless. Let's explore how this transformation unfolds. Step 6. Focus on personal growth. With a strong support system in place, the next step in reclaiming your life is to focus on personal growth. This stage is where the transformation truly begins. It's about rediscovering who you are, pursuing your passions, and setting goals that align with the person you want to become. But let me ask you this: who are you when you're not defined by the opinions or actions of others? Toxic relationships often strip us of our identity. We lose sight of our interests, dreams, and even our self-worth as we pour all our energy into trying to please someone else. But personal growth is your opportunity to reclaim what's been lost and to build something even stronger in its place. For Sarah, this was one of the most empowering steps in her journey. After eliminating contact with Max and surrounding herself with supportive people, she realized she had space to explore who she was outside of that relationship. She began asking herself questions like, what brings me joy? What am I passionate about? What do I want my future to look like? One of the first things Sarah did was return to her love of painting, a passion she had abandoned because Max didn't value it. Picking up a paintbrush again was more than just a creative outlet. It was a way for Sarah to reconnect with herself. Every stroke of color on the canvas reminded her that she was more than the sum of her past experiences. She was someone vibrant, creative, and full of potential. Personal growth doesn't stop at hobbies. It's also about setting new goals and pushing yourself toward them. Sarah began to think about her career, something she had put on hold for far too long. She enrolled in classes to gain new skills, which not only boosted her confidence but also opened up opportunities she hadn't considered before. Each small step forward reinforced the belief that she was capable of creating a fulfilling and independent life. Growth also involves healing and reflection. Sarah spent time journaling, writing down her thoughts, feelings, and dreams for the future. This practice helped her process her emotions and gain clarity about what she wanted to leave behind and what she wanted to embrace. Reflection became a tool for self-awareness, allowing her to see the lessons in her experiences without being trapped by them. Personal growth is deeply tied to Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have the power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Focusing on growth means taking control of your own narrative, stepping into the role of the protagonist in your life story, rather than a bystander in someone else's. This step also involves building resilience. Growth isn't always linear, it comes with setbacks and challenges. But each challenge is an opportunity to strengthen your character and move closer to your goals. Sarah faced moments of doubt, times when she questioned whether she was truly capable of creating a new life. But she reminded herself of how far she had already come and used those doubts as motivation to push forward. So what does personal growth look like for you? Perhaps it's reconnecting with a forgotten passion, learning something new, or taking steps toward a goal you've been too afraid to pursue. Maybe it's as simple as spending time in self-reflection, asking yourself what truly matters to you. Personal growth is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about becoming more aligned with your values and discovering what makes you feel alive. For Sarah, this step was transformative, not just because of the goals she achieved, but because of the confidence and clarity she gained along the way. As you focus on personal growth, you'll find that the emotional weight of the past begins to lift. You'll become more grounded in who you are and less attached to the opinions or actions of others. And this growth naturally leads to the next step, practicing detachment. Let's explore how letting go emotionally can further empower you on this journey. Step 7. Practice detachment. As you delve deeper into personal growth, the next essential step is to practice detachment. Detachment is not about apathy or indifference. It's about releasing the emotional ties that keep you tethered to pain, conflict, and unresolved expectations. It is about freeing yourself to live fully in the present without being weighed down by the actions or opinions of others. But ask yourself, what would your life look like if you let go of the need for approval, the need to be right, or the need for closure? Detachment, at its core, is a Stoic practice. Epictetus taught us, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. This principle reminds us that we cannot control other people, only our responses to them. Practicing detachment means accepting this truth and focusing on what you can influence: your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions. For Sarah, detachment was one of the hardest but most liberating parts of her journey. But even after cutting ties with Max, there were moments when she found herself replaying old arguments in her mind or wondering how he was doing. These lingering thoughts threatened to pull her back into the emotional turmoil she had worked so hard to escape. To counter this, Sarah began practicing mindfulness. Whenever a memory of Max surfaced, instead of suppressing it or letting it spiral into negativity, she observed it without judgment. She would acknowledge the thought and then gently redirect her focus to the present moment. Over time, this practice helped her build emotional distance from the relationship. Detachment is also about accepting reality for what it is. Sarah realized that no amount of reflection or analysis could change the past. Max's behavior was not a reflection of her worth, nor was it something she could control. This acceptance allowed her to let go of the what-ifs and if-onlys that had haunted her for so long. Ask yourself, what am I holding on to that no longer serves me? Maybe it's the hope that someone will change, the desire for an apology, or the belief that you could have done something differently. Detachment doesn't mean these feelings will disappear overnight. It means recognizing them, accepting them, and choosing not to let them define you. One powerful tool for practicing detachment is to focus on your own actions and values. Instead of worrying about how others perceive you, ask yourself, am I acting in alignment with my principles? Am I doing what feels right to me? This shift in focus places the power back in your hands where it belongs. Detachment also involves letting go of the need for closure. Sometimes we cling to relationships or sports situations because we're waiting for an explanation, an apology, or a sense of finality. But as Sarah discovered, closure isn't something that comes from others, it's something you create for yourself. By accepting that Max's actions were beyond her control, she was able to close that chapter of her life and move forward. Practicing detachment doesn't mean shutting off your emotions. It means feeling them fully but not allowing them to control you. It's about observing your thoughts without becoming entangled in them, much like watching leaves float down a stream without trying to grab hold of them. For Sarah, detachment was a gradual process, but with each step, she felt lighter and more at peace. She no longer felt the urge to check Max's social media or ask mutual friends about him. Instead, she focused on the life she was building, one filled with growth, creativity, and self-respect. As you practice detachment, you'll find that the emotional grip others once had on you begins to loosen. You'll gain clarity and strength, allowing you to move through life with greater ease and purpose. And this clarity naturally brings us to the next step, embracing the power of silence. Let's explore how choosing not to engage can become one of your greatest tools for maintaining peace and self-respect. Step 8. Embrace the power of silence. As you practice detachment, you'll begin to notice the immense strength in silence. The silence, when used intentionally, becomes more than the absence of words. It becomes a powerful tool for protecting your peace, maintaining your dignity, and taking control of your energy. But let me ask you, how often do you speak out of impulse only to regret giving someone the satisfaction of your reaction? Silence is not weakness. In fact, it's one of the most profound expressions of strength. When faced with provocation or manipulation, silence communicates that you will no longer engage in futile battles. It says, I value my peace too much to waste it on this. Sarah's journey reveals how transformative silence can be. In the past, Max thrived on arguments and emotional reactions. Every word Sarah said was twisted, every conversation escalated into a new conflict. But when she began to embrace silence, the dynamic shifted. Suddenly, Max had no fuel for his manipulations. Without Sarah's responses to feed his control, his attempts to provoke her fell flat. This is the beauty of silence. It disrupts the toxic patterns that others rely on. It leaves space for reflection, both for you and the other person. While they may initially feel frustrated or confused by your lack of engagement, silence often forces them to confront their own actions. And for you, it becomes a sanctuary, a reminder that not every comment or situation demands a response. Ask yourself, what battles am I fighting that don't deserve my energy? Perhaps it's a partner's criticism, a friend's passive aggressiveness, or even the subtle jabs from someone who claims to care for you. By choosing silence, you're not avoiding the issue, you're choosing a different kind of resolution. You're choosing to protect your energy and focus it on things that truly matter. But silence isn't just about withholding words. It's also about creating internal quiet. Sarah learned that silence was most effective when paired with inner calm. She practiced pausing before responding, asking herself whether speaking would improve the situation or simply feed the conflict. More often than not, she found that silence was the wiser choice. Here's the truth. Silence speaks louder than any argument ever could. It says, I don't need to prove myself to you. My worth is not up for debate. In the stillness of your silence, you reclaim your power. This step is deeply tied to Stoicism, which emphasizes self-control and emotional regulation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you cannot control. Silence embodies this wisdom. It allows you to step back, observe, and respond, not out of anger or frustration, but from a place of clarity and purpose. As you embrace silence, you might find it uncomfortable at first. There's often a societal expectation to fill the gaps, to defend yourself, or to win the argument. But ask yourself, what am I winning by engaging? Is it worth your peace, your time, your emotional energy? Sarah found that silence also created space for her to grow. Without the constant noise of conflict, she could hear her own thoughts more clearly. She could focus on her goals, her passions, and the relationships that truly mattered. Silence became her shield, a protective barrier that allowed her to thrive in peace. So how can you begin to embrace silence in your own life? Start by recognizing situations where your words won't create meaningful change. Instead of reacting impulsively, take a deep breath and choose not to engage. Let your actions and your boundaries speak for you. Have you ever experienced the power of silence in your own life? If so, share your story in the comments below. It could inspire someone else on their journey. And if you found this message helpful, give this video a like. Your support helps us create more content like this, and it reminds others that they're not alone in their struggles. Now that you've embraced silence, you're ready for the final and most rewarding step: reclaiming your life. Let's explore how all the steps you've taken come together to create a feel filled with strength, freedom, and joy. Stay with me, this is where it all comes full circle. Step 9. Reclaim your life. Reclaiming your life is the culmination of every step you've taken thus far. It's the moment when you realize that you're worth your peace and your happiness are entirely within your control. It's about creating a future that reflects your values, your desires, and your authentic self. But let me ask you this: what does a life reclaimed by you, free of toxicity, look like? For Sarah, reclaiming her life wasn't a single event. It was a process built on every choice she made to prioritize herself. After recognizing her worth, setting boundaries, focusing on self-care, eliminating contact, and embracing silence, she found herself at a crossroads. The path behind her, riddled with manipulation and emotional pain, was no longer an option. Ahead lay the possibility of a life she could shape on her own terms. One of Sarah's first acts of reclaiming her life was to redefine her identity. For so long, she had been Max's partner, someone whose actions and emotions were dictated by his approval or disapproval. But now she was simply Sarah, an individual with passions, dreams, and limitless potential. She threw herself into her painting, not just as a hobby but as a declaration of her independence. Each piece she created was a testament to her resilience and creativity. Reclaiming your life also involves rewriting your narrative. Toxic relationships have a way of making you believe lies about yourself, that you're not enough, that you're unworthy of love, or that you can't survive on your own. But as Sarah reflected on her journey, she began to see the truth. She wasn't weak, she was strong. Or she wasn't dependent, she had the courage to walk away. And she wasn't defined by Max's treatment of her. She was defined by her own actions, values, and choices. Ask yourself, what lies have I been telling myself because of someone else's behavior? Reclaiming your life means identifying these false beliefs and replacing them with affirmations of your worth and strength. It's about stepping into a future where your decisions are guided by your inner compass, not by the expectations or opinions of others. Reclaiming your life also involves embracing the unknown. It's natural to feel fear when leaving behind something familiar, even if it was harmful. But as Sarah discovered, the unknown is where growth happens. She began pursuing new opportunities, taking classes, meeting new people, and exploring parts of herself she had long ignored. With each step forward, she felt more confident, more alive. Stoicism reminds us that we can only control our own actions and perspectives. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Reclaiming your life is about curating those thoughts, choosing optimism over regret, and focusing on the possibilities rather than the pain of the past. Perhaps the most profound part of reclaiming your life is finding joy in the little things. For Sarah, this meant savoring quiet mornings with her daughter, laughing with friends, and finding fulfillment in her art. Where she realized that reclaiming her life didn't require grand gestures, it was about appreciating the freedom and peace she had worked so hard to create. But reclaiming your life doesn't mean forgetting the lessons of the past. Sarah carried her experiences with her, not as a burden but as a reminder of her strength. She knew that the challenges she faced had shaped her into someone resilient and self-aware. And that awareness gave her the confidence to protect her peace and value moving forward. So what does reclaiming your life look like for you? It's a deeply personal journey, one that reflects your unique values and dreams. But no matter where you start, remember this: reclaiming your life is not about erasing the past. It's about using it as a foundation to build something stronger, brighter, and truer. This is the moment where everything comes full circle. You've recognized your worth, set boundaries, embrace silence, and let go of toxic ties. Now you stand at the edge of a new chapter, a life entirely your own, filled with the peace, joy, and freedom you deserve. Take this step boldly. The future is yours to reclaim. You've now reached the end of this journey, but in many ways, it's also a new beginning. Each step recognizing your worth, setting boundaries, focusing on self-care, eliminating contact, surrounding yourself with support, embracing personal growth, practicing detachment, and wielding the power of silence has brought you to this transformative moment. Reclaiming your life. This is your reward for the courage it took to walk away, for the strength it took to choose yourself, and for the resilience it took to rebuild. The path you've walked is not an easy one. There were moments of doubt, fear, and even heartbreak. But as Stoicism teaches, our challenges are not meant to break us, they are meant to shape us. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every difficulty you faced has been a step toward your growth, a lesson that strengthened your resolve. Now, as you move forward, carry these lessons with you. Remember that your worth is not defined by anyone else. Your boundaries are sacred. Your peace is priceless. Let silence shield you from unnecessary conflict, and let detachment guide you to clarity. Above all, live boldly and authentically, knowing that you have reclaimed your life on your own terms. As you reflect on this journey, ask yourself, what does my next chapter look like? What do I want to create, pursue, and embrace? This is your time to dream, to grow, and to thrive. The possibilities are endless because they are yours to define. If this video has resonated with you, I encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What step stood out the most to you? What part of this journey are you currently navigating? Bet your story has the power to inspire others who are walking a similar path. If you haven't already, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content on growth, healing, and the wisdom of Stoicism. Share this message with someone who might need it. You never know how much they could benefit from these insights. Thank you for spending your time here and for allowing me to guide you through this transformative process. Remember, the power to change your life is always within you. May your journey be filled with peace, strength, and clarity. Until next time, take care and be kind to yourself. You've earned it.